Yes!
Most if not all fans of the Pokemon franchise have one, two, or maybe even more favorite creatures. And whether or not your favorite Pokemon is well liked or disliked by the majority of the fan base, or whatever the case may be, when it comes to popularity, not a single Pokemon can compete with Pikachu. Well, the only realistic exception would be Charizard, but nonetheless, Pikachu is the most recognizable Pokemon of all time, and although its status as the series mascot is commonly referred to as unofficial, that's probably only because Nintendo, Game Freak, or the Pokemon Company never stated this themselves. At least I think that's the case. But anyways, regardless, Pikachu is definitely the face of the Pokemon universe, and his name is literally synonymous with it. Now, I'm pretty sure that if you showed a picture of Pikachu to anybody within the ages of 3 years old to like 40 something, they would know who Pikachu is. But you want to know something crazy? Pikachu is a part of a 3-stage evolutionary line, and its pre-evolved form Pichu and its evolved form Raichu get absolutely no love at all. You could combine the popularity of Pichu and Raichu and multiply it by like 1,000,000, and there still would be a huge gap in popularity of these two in comparison to Pikachu. But has anybody ever publicly stated why this is the case? Now, I know for a fact that it popped in your mind at least once, so I can't be the only one, right? Maybe so. But anyways, I wanted to discuss why the other members of Pikachu's evolutionary line aren't all the rage. So, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get it in. So as we said before, Pichu evolves into Pikachu, and Pikachu evolves into Raichu. Now I want to talk about things in generational order, so let's shed some light on Raichu first. Now design-wise, Raichu does a pretty good job at fulfilling the older version of Pikachu role, and it released alongside Pikachu in the first generation. So with that in mind, you would think that people would be affined to Raichu just as much as they are to Pikachu, you know, since they came out at the exact same time and were given the same amount of time to make an impression. But that's never been the case. So why has Raichu never garnered that much attention? Well, as much attention as Pikachu. Well, for starters, Pikachu was purposely designed to be as appealing as possible. So even though Raichu is its evolved form, and evolved forms are expected to be superior, Raichu, living in Pikachu's shadow, was set in stone from Jump Street. Raichu literally did not have a chance. Now Pikachu was given a yellow coloration because yellow was a neutral color, and it was meant to appeal to young boys and young girls alike. And Pikachu, being the mascot of the Pokemon universe, is the sole reason why it's, for the most part, the only case where the pre-evolved form completely overshadows the evolved form. Granted, there's a handful of people whose favorite Pokemon are ones that can still evolve, but for the most part, the fully evolved Pokemon are usually seen as the coolest ones. Pre-evolved Pokemon, especially those that are the first stage of their evolutionary line, are usually pretty rudimentary, and it's made evident in their designs. For example, Charmander is a small lizard with a fairly simplistic design who becomes an intimidating winged dragon when it's fully evolved. Pre-evolved Pokemon are deliberately designed this way because the point is to incrementally add features throughout their evolutionary line. Also, in the original series Pokemon anime, when Ash began his adventure, one of his biggest uphill battles was against Lieutenant Surge, mainly due to the fact that Ash was a fairly inexperienced trainer at the time, and Lieutenant Surge's Raichu was a lot more powerful than Ash's Pikachu. Ash lost his first battle against Surge and contemplated on evolving his Pikachu into Raichu in order to increase their odds of defeating Lieutenant Surge and obtaining a badge from him. However, Pikachu refused to evolve because it was content with the form that it currently was in and expressed zero desire to change that. You know, as a kid watching this episode, I really respected Pikachu for this. This more than likely went over a lot of our heads as kids, but this scene was supposed to teach us to never sell out or give up on who you are in order to attain something. Stay true to yourself, and whatever you're working towards, you will eventually achieve it if you never throw the towel in. And Pikachu wasn't about to give up its identity in order to become the same thing that it was trying to defeat. In the end, Ash and Pikachu went back to the drawing board to strategize a method to defeat Raichu. In the rematch, Pikachu took advantage of the fact that it was smaller and more nimble than Raichu and defeated it by outspeeding it, which is interesting because this may have inadvertently alluded to how battle mechanics in the core series games function. Because in the games, the Pokemon with the higher speed stat always attacks first, and Ash's Pikachu literally ran circles around Lieutenant Surge's Raichu. Raichu being bigger than Pikachu made it very physically imposing to younger viewers watching this episode back in the day, and also gave Raichu the role of the pseudo-villain. A young child wouldn't have the mental capacity to interpret the logic and true meaning behind what Ash and Pikachu were trying to accomplish, because all they could see was the big bad bully Raichu was beating up on one of the main characters of the series. Young children are innocent, for the most part. And when you're young, you're taught to be a good person, and the role that Raichu played in this episode completely opposed that ideology. This is the reason why children look up to their favorite superheroes and hardly ever the villains. And I would know this from experience because I was one of those kids who strongly disliked the villainous characters in all my favorite cartoons growing up. So yeah, What I'm saying may be completely hypothetical, but it's safe to say Meowth even stated that Ash's Pikachu was more powerful as a Pikachu than it would be as a Raichu. So this should give you some insight on why the Pikachu-Raichu rivalry exists, as well as how it works. And Pikachu evolves on a Raichu via Thunderstone. So evolving Pikachu is 100% optional. There will never be a point where your Pikachu will ever evolve unless you made it evolve. But that's not the case with Pokemon who evolve by the conventional method of leveling up, because for instance, if you wanted your Bulbasaur to remain a Bulbasaur and never evolve into an Ivysaur, you would have to prevent it from evolving every time it levels up until it hits level 100, or given an Everstone so that evolution can never possibly occur. Pikachu will never have to worry about that. Those who prefer Pikachu over Raichu have it pretty easy, since keeping Pikachu unevolved is a zero effort process. So unfortunately for Raichu, its existence is for the most part optional, unless we're talking about completing the Pokedex or competitive play, because at some point in time you will have to evolve a Pikachu for the Pokedex data. And in regards to stats, Raichu is stronger than Pikachu with its base stat total of 485. Generation 2 brought us Pikachu's pre-evolved form, Pichu. Pichu is a baby Pokemon, and baby Pokemon as a whole have always been a stage classification that the fan base has never really been too fond of. And it's mostly due to the fact that most, if not all, baby Pokemon were tacked onto an evolutionary line that didn't need another stage. This is further evidenced by the fact that Pokemon such as Ponyta, Tangela, and Vulpix were all meant to have pre-evolved baby forms in the beta stage of Pokemon Red and Green before they were cut and never saw the light of day in a complete version of the games. I said that baby Pokemon are, for the most part, tacked on to an evolutionary line because a handful of them are weak Pokemon that evolve into Pokemon that were never strong to begin with. The only really noticeable exceptions are Magby and Elekid, who evolve into Magmar and Electabuzz respectively. Magby and Elekid are usually given a pass because Magmar and Electabuzz both have a base stat total of 495, and they were single stage Pokemon before their baby forms were introduced in the following generation. So it was perfectly fine for Magmar and Electabuzz to receive baby forms because, being originally single stage Pokemon, they were for the most part considered to be fully evolved and even have the fully evolved Pokemon look as well. Pichu's existence would be perfectly justified if Pikachu was originally a single stage Pokemon with a base stat total somewhere between the mid to high 400s. And I honestly doubt that anybody would have had a problem with the series mascot getting a pre-evolved form if things happened this way instead. But stat-wise, Pikachu was never powerful itself and has a base stat total of 320, while Pichu's is a measly 205. So yeah, this is one of the best examples of an already weak Pokemon receiving a baby form that it probably didn't need to. One of the more prominent attempts that Nintendo made to try and popularize Pichu is by including it in Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. Despite the fact that I was just a kid when Super Smash Bros. Melee came out, I didn't have high expectations for Pichu at all when I found out that it would be a part of Melee's roster, but somehow my expectations ended up being higher than I realized, because in Super Smash Bros. Melee, Pichu was a worse character than I expected. In this game, Pichu has the exact same moveset as Pikachu, but when it uses its electric attacks, it damages itself. The in-game reasoning for this states that Pichu is inexperienced at controlling its electrical powers, and it hurts itself when it uses them. Now, Pichu was nowhere to be seen in the following two Super Smash Bros. Titles, Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii and Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS and Wii U. However, Pichu made its return to the franchise in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Switch, and unfortunately it retained the shortcoming of damaging itself when it uses its electric attacks. As badly as this sucks, it would be completely understandable if there was an upside to this, but there isn't one. Lucario, for example, has the perk of dealing more damage to opponents the more damage that it took itself, but there's no benefit to Pichu damaging itself at all. This was the perfect opportunity for Pichu to really make his mark, but this was to no avail. Nintendo could have made Pichu at least somewhat unique in the Smash Bros. Games, but it's literally just a clone of Pikachu, but worse. I'm pretty sure that Pichu was intended to receive adoration from the fan base for the same reasons that Pikachu did. Pichu has similar, if not identical, cuteness factor that made Pikachu popular, and when you really think about it, this should be even more applicable since Pichu is literally a baby version of Pikachu. Unfortunately, Pichu wasn't able to replicate Pikachu's success because Pikachu had an entire generation to accrue popularity and recognition before Pichu existed, so you could pretty much say that the stars would have never aligned for Pichu to ever outshine Pikachu. But have you ever heard of Gorochu? This was the Pokemon originally intended to be the evolved form of Raichu, but it was scrapped and never made it into the games. This means that if this wasn't the case, Pichu wouldn't exist because 3 is the maximum number of Pokemon that can belong to the same evolutionary line. So yeah, it's not a secret that Pichu and Raichu will forever be stuck in Pikachu's shadow. Granted, I'm for certain that Pichu and Raichu definitely have fans because there's almost 900 something Pokemon, and I'm 100% certain that each and every one of them are somebody's favorite. It just bothers me that Pichu and Raichu are amazingly designed Pokemon who also have the honor of being the other 2 evolutionary line components of the most recognizable Pokemon of all time. So it makes me wonder if it would make a difference if both of these Pokemon never existed. I'm not in any way, shape, or form insinuating that Pichu and Raichu shouldn't exist. I'm simply saying that Pikachu's evolutionary line should have shared the spotlight and been promoted together. There's a million different Pokemon advertisements, and I'll be honest when I say that I would appreciate them a lot more if Pichu and Raichu were with Pikachu in all of them. And for the record, I'm aware that there was probably never any intentions of Pikachu to ever be single stage, but its pre-evolved and evolved forms are ignored so much it's almost like Pikachu is single staged. However, in each generation, Game Freak implemented the trend of introducing an air quotes, Pikachu clone that are all single staged, for the exception of one. I wanted to roughly quote the website Pokemon Wiki instead of completely paraphrasing because on this website, who and what the Pikachu clones are was denoted so perfectly. Okay, so it states that every member is an electric type rodent or similar animal. All have cheek pouches and resemble one another in some way. However, Meryl is the only member of this group that lacks the aforementioned attributes. They are all in the field and fairy egg groups, with the exception of Plus One Minor, which are just in the fairy egg group, and Emoga is only in the fairy egg group. All members keep their Japanese names as their English names. On screen, you will see a picture of every Pokemon referred to as a Pikachu clone, and if this is your first time being informed of this, it's incredibly easy to see how this term came about. Many of you may not have ever been aware, but Meryl is the original Pikachu clone. Back in the late 90s when internet access was limited and word of mouth was pretty much the only method to convey information around the world, speculations ran rampant in regards to what Meryl's name actually was, and since nobody knew, there came a point in time where it was referred to as Pikablu before his name was finally confirmed. Mimikyu is sometimes referred to as the Gen 7 Pikachu clone alongside Togedemaru, but if we're going by Pokemon Wiki's criteria of what a Pikachu clone is, Mimikyu wouldn't count at all. And that makes sense because it's not a part of the fairy or field egg groups, and only the rag that covers its true form looks like Pikachu and not its actual form itself. So Togedemaru is the true and sole Gen 7 Pikachu clone. Alright everybody, that does it for this one. No matter what happens, popularity wise, there won't ever be a Pokemon that can dethrone Pikachu. But I hope that something beneficial happens in the future for its pre-evolved and evolved forms so that they can get in on some of that spotlight as well. So what do y'all think? Should Pikachu have been solo all along and never belonged to an evolutionary line to begin with, or are things fine the way that they currently are? Let me know how you feel in the comment section. So there you have it. If you made it to the end of this video and enjoyed what you watched, do me a favor and thumb rest of that like button until it turns blue. And if you're new to my neck of the woods, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon so you don't ever miss a video of the most elite gaming content. But with that being stated, 1LHD is over and out. Y'all take it easy.